Well, hello. Welcome back. Good afternoon. It's nice to see everyone virtually. I just want to take a moment to acknowledge that we made it to June, as Rachel just said, and we got here successfully thanks to all of you. It wasn't at all the school year that we expected or would have chosen, but it still was a success. And I'm proud to say that your flexibility, your innovation, your commitment to put kids first has allowed us to move forward into this new territory that we're in. At the same time, we've demonstrated our ability to take care of each other in a number of different ways. And as you know, one step we've taken to minimize the impact of the current economic situation on next year's programs and staffing is to implement furloughs. So let's start with a quick furlough update. So the Employment Department approved our application, and I know your supervisors are working with you on the specifics of furlough days, what group you're in, all of that. We'll also be sending out an updated fact sheet following this webinar. In the meantime, I wanted to share just a few of the questions that have come up through the Your Voice form and answer them while we're here together. We'll also be posting these on the FAQ, which you can find at the Work at Home website. And I encourage you to go there and see if some of the questions you might have already been asked and answered there. But I'll answer a few right now. So question number one is, are our partner school districts in support of our decision to move forward with the furlough? That's a great question. The answer is yes. Before I made the decision to push forward with this, I met with each of the superintendents of our component districts and basically, frankly, gave them veto power and said, if this is going to negatively impact our ability to serve all of your students, all of our students together, then we won't use this particular tool. What they said back to me is that they understand that the ESD doesn't have all the tools actually that the school districts have to address some of the economic problems that are coming along, such as the federal dollars that are going straight to the school districts. So given that, all of them encouraged me to use whatever tools we do have available to us, including a furlough, to do our best to protect future student service levels within the context of the potential funding cuts that could be happening to education next year. So the answer is yes, our districts are on board with this decision. Question number two. Workshare eligibility states that part-time employees must have worked for 12 months to be eligible. Is this consecutive months, and if so, how will summer break affect the eligibility piece? So first of all, I just want to clarify, Workshare requires full-time employees to have worked for 6 months to be eligible. The 12-month work requirement, as this questioner correctly stated, is for part-time employees only. And both full and part-time employees are based on the actual ESD hire date. So if you're a full-time employee and were hired by the ESD more than 6 months prior to the furlough, you're eligible. If you're a part-time employee and hired before June of last year, you're eligible. Okay. Question number three. I have another job, not with HDESD, and I plan to pick up extra shifts on the days I'm furloughed. Will this affect the unemployment benefit I receive as a result of this furlough? We believe that this likely could impact your unemployment benefits, but that determination is entirely up to the Oregon Employment Department. High Desert ESD is required to report weekly any additional wages or income from individual employees, and it's our understanding that this data will be used to determine the weekly unemployment amount that you will receive. So it's important that you report to us any additional wages or income that you receive during the weeks of the furlough. Last question. If I take any leave this week or next week, will that impact my ability to be eligible for the furlough during those weeks? Well, we've received new guidance on this that's different from what we understood before. The latest interpretation is that anyone who takes leave this week or next week will not be eligible for that week's Workshare furlough, even if it's within the 40% that we shared before. It's critical, therefore, that you make sure that your supervisor knows of any leave you will take this week or next week. We need to let payroll know right away as well, so please let your supervisor know. Many of you put that information on your application form. That works, that's great, but please also make sure your supervisor knows as well. And if you haven't had a chance to apply yet, please do so immediately, as soon as you can. Our business office is ready to send in the first week's unemployment claims for Memorial Day, last week's, and we don't want to leave you or your application behind. So please reach out for help if you need it, and get to that right away if you haven't had a chance to yet. We also encourage you to please keep sending questions in through the Your Voice forum on our Work at Home website, and continue to talk with your supervisors as you're having questions and needing clarification. Rochelle, Aaliyah, Anna, JL, and I are also resources for all of you as we navigate this furlough along with the uncertainty of what lies ahead. And speaking of uncertainty, I want to stop and take a step back and just acknowledge what is going on in the world around us. Not just the uncertainties of the pandemic and the economy and the changes to our lives, but acknowledging that we live and work in a climate of systemic racism. Once again, with the death of George Floyd, we're painfully reminded that both our nation and our state have a tremendous amount of work to do around racism and equity. As an organization, and we claim to put children first and take care of each other, our equity work remains critical on every level and in every fiber of who we are. We need to stand in solidarity with our communities of color. And frankly, those of us who are white have an obligation to change the system that has benefited us. This isn't just a policing issue, it's also an issue of our system of education, our economic system, our housing system, every system that keeps the status quo. We need to continue to weave the work we've already started into broader work that fights injustice and real systemic racism that exists in all aspects of our lives. So now we move on to summer. Believe it or not, summer is just a week or two away, and I want to recognize all of our programs that are moving forward with summer activities, our Migrant Ed program, early intervention, and maybe many other programs that will continue to serve children and families over these summer months. The programs will continue to do this through distance learning. And for those of us who work year-round, we'll continue to follow the same guidelines for teleworking whenever possible and appropriate. This means most of us will continue to work from home this summer. Notice and permission will continue to be required upon entering high-desert ESD buildings so that we can ensure social distancing can be maintained. One important thing you should know, you may have heard today already that the governor is announcing the notion of phase 2 opening of various counties across the state, the guidelines for that. Those phase 1 and phase 2 reopening guidelines are for our local counties, and as of right now, schools do not apply to those reopenings. We aren't in phase 1, phase 2 with them. Schools fall under a different set of guidelines from the state. So be sure not to assume just because you've heard a business can now open, or Ben Park and Rec can open, or the Boys and Girls Club, etc., that applies to us the same way. We're in a different system. If you have questions about any of those potential openings, please do reach out. By next week, we expect to have guidelines from ODE for teaching and learning in the fall. And while the ODE guidance will help us frame our decisions moving forward, we will be working through the summer to plan the details. I want to thank those of you who have already taken the time to share your reflections and insights through the survey that was sent out last week. And if you haven't had a chance to do so, please do. Your input is critical to our planning process. Our learnings from this spring, these last few weeks, will be invaluable as we plan forward to fall and beyond that. So far, we've received over 80 responses and hope to see those continue to roll in. So I'll share what we know about that at next week's Fireside Chat, which will also be our last gathering like this for the school year. I do plan on holding at least 2 additional chats during the summer, probably one in July and one in August. Those dates have not yet been set. If you have the summer off, please enjoy your vacation, but occasionally you might take a peek to see if we have an ESD-wide communication planned. They certainly won't be mandatory, but if you'd like to join us for summer updates, keep an eye on your email. With that, I'll say goodbye for this week and thank you. We'll gather again next week. Take care.